Time is 5 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 2023 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us in person at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center and remotely via WebEx. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy and warm and dry. With me in person today are my fellow board members, Mike Kavanaugh, Matt Core, Sarah Howard, Janice Mulhoff, Craig Moody, and Mary Spurgeon. Director Amanda Bogner has notified us that she is unable to attend the meeting this evening. We also have President and CEO Javier Fernandez, our General Counsel Steve Bruckner with Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of the OPPD board support staff. OPPD's executive leadership team and subject matter experts are also participating in today's meeting in person and via WebEx. Additionally, we have 3 members of the public joining us in person at the Civic Center, and we have 29 members of the public consisting of OPPD employees and other members of the public joining us via WebEx. As a reminder to board members, executive leadership, OPPD staff, and everyone in the room, please mute your microphones and your cell phones to reduce background noise during the meeting. To members of the public, thank you for attending. You are in listen-only mode. If you have any technology questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx to communicate with the event host. If you are disconnected from the WebEx conference, we ask that you rejoin in the same manner as when you originally joined. I'll now ask a member of OPPD's physical security team to provide the safety briefing for our location and for Javier Fernandez to provide other safety reminders.
Good evening. My name is Randy Bynum with Corporate Security. I'm filling in for Josh Clark this evening. OPPD is committed to having physical safety. And with that, with the people in this room, we have first aid equipment located at either exit, as well as first aid supplies from the security department. If we need to evacuate the room, there's exits located on either side of the room. They lead to stairwells that'll take us directly outside. Should we have to go downstairs for severe weather, we'll go down the stairs. The deputies will take us to the underground parking. For those of you at home, hopefully you have some first aid supplies at home and have some emergency plans also put in place. If you are feeling ill or decide you need some medical help, please let somebody know. And if you're viewing from off home, please let somebody there know or have somebody that can contact help if you need it. Should there be an active shooter issue, we will follow directions of our deputies here. And also, with the weather, reminds us, slips, trips, and fall continue to be the leading reason for people to making trips to the hospital and getting hurt. So I encourage you to please be careful and be mindful of the weather. And with that, that takes care of the physical security briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Nice job filling in for Josh. I'm going to talk quickly about the psychological safety part, which is, as always, just as important as the physical safety. On Tuesday, I focused on respect, and that's what I plan on doing today. Respect is one of the foundational concepts of psychological safety. When we come into the meeting, when we come into to the table or in a one-on-one conversation, knowing that you have that very basic expectation of respect for each other, really creates that atmosphere for us to have a psychologically safe environment, to have tough discussions, to have good debate that often leads to good outcomes. So we here at OPPD, we cultivate the culture of respect, expecting that everybody else is going to treat you the way you want to treat each other. That's the golden rule, and something very, very important as a foundation for psychological safety. Next slide, please. The safety focus for March, fatigue awareness. Again, worker fatigue greatly increases the risk of illness and injury. Understanding your individual risk factors and committing to ensuring you get enough rest. With the daylight savings that I mentioned on Tuesday, it may seem and sound just like an hour. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal, and we want to make sure that all of our employees are aware of their how tired they are, make sure that we get enough rest, and that we're aware of whether or not we're experiencing fatigue to the point that it puts our safety at risk. Roadway safety on a day like today, it's important. Safe driving requires 100% of our focus, especially when road conditions are like they are today. Thankfully, we didn't get too much snow that is covering the ground, but as we all go back home, I ask all of us to be 100% focused on our driving and not distracted with cell phones, making calls, or doing other things that we shouldn't be doing while we're driving. That's something that we make sure that we brief all of our employees on our safety briefings, especially those who are behind the wheel on a daily basis. And the third one is preventing hand, finger, and thumb injuries. On the bright side, 2022 and 2023, we've been focusing on soft tissue injuries as opposed to harder, longer lasting injuries. So that's a bright side of where we are with our injuries. However, we are still experiencing and probably more soft tissue injuries. In 2022, we recorded 9 of these type of injuries, which is much higher than the 3.5 that we typically see every year. So this is a focus for the organization. Utilizing a few good habits and good equipment will avoid harm to your hands. And that concludes my safety briefing.
Great, thanks very much. Now let's run through our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on oppd.com. This meeting is being conducted in person with WebEx conferencing and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are part of the official public record. After the introduction of action items, board members will ask clarifying questions of staff, and then I will ask for public comment. After public comment, the board will conduct its discussion on the matter and then vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on any other matters of district business. We will take comments in the room first, then via WebEx. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone in the center of the room. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer located here in the room. This lane will signal you when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please deliver them to the OPPD representatives in the room. Next, we will review the 2 options for WebEx attendees to notify us. Option 1, which is being displayed now, involves sending the meeting technology host a message using the chat feature, simply stating that you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chair Williams. For those of you who have joined us using the computer or WebEx mobile app, you will find a button in your WebEx interface to open the chat panel. Once opened, you may send your message to the meeting technology host. Requests to provide comments will be relayed to Chair Williams for recognition during the public comments section.
Option 2, which is being displayed now, involves the hand raise feature.
WebEx allows attendees to virtually raise their hand. You may use this feature to indicate to OPPD that you wish to be recognized to provide comments. The hand raise button can be found in the lower control bar of WebEx. After you have provided your comments, please press the hand raise button again to virtually lower your hand. And for those of you who have joined the meeting using only a telephone, WebEx has a hand raise feature that is activated by pressing *3 to raise and lower your hand. When we see your hand raised, we will acknowledge you by referencing a portion of your phone number. For example, caller with the phone number beginning in 402-123. If you wish to provide comments when recognized, please wait a brief moment to be unmuted and begin speaking. At this time, if you would like to try using the hand raise feature, please do so as a test.
I'll allow plenty of time at each opportunity for public comment for members of the public to provide notification via WebEx. When I call on a member of the public to speak, our meeting technology host will unmute your microphone. Before commencing your comments, I suggest you first affirm that we can hear you. Please state your name and address and state the name of any organization or person you are representing. Organizations should choose 1 representative to speak on their behalf. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we will display a timer on the WebEx screen to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. This lane will signal you when 30 seconds remain and when time is up. For all attendees, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitious, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from polling the board, as such vote is not on the agenda and is prohibited by law. If you have any written materials, please email them to corporatesecretary@oppd.com, and they will be received on our behalf. For those at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center, please hand your materials to Ms. Lane. In summary, we will take in-room comments first, then WebEx comments, then we will have a last call. Ms. Lane, will you please take the roll call?
Director Williams,
Here.
Director Kavanaugh,
Here.
Director Core,
Here.
Director Howard,
Here.
Director Mulhoff,
Here.
Director Moody,
Here.
Director Spurgeon.
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald, OPPD outlets newsletter, oppd.com, and social media, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on March 10, 2023. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on oppd.com and in this meeting room. The consent agenda items are as follows. Approval of the February 2023 meeting minutes and the March 16, 2023 agenda. Item 7, SD 14, Retirement Plan Funding Monitoring Report, Resolution 6553. Item 8, NC 2, Economizer Outlet Expansion Joint Replacement, Labor Contract Award, Resolution 6554. And finally, Substation Control Building and Switchgear Enclosure, Resolution 6555.
Motion approved.
Oh, sorry. Apologize. Northwest Omaha ED Steel Transmission and Substation Structures, Resolution 6556. Sarpy County Station, SC3 Generator Circuit Breaker and Disconnect Switch Replacement, Engineer Certification, Resolution 6557.
There are
So I'm gonna put my glasses on. I didn't know it.
no corrections, changes. Motion from Director Kavanaugh. Do we have a second?
Second.
We discussed these action items at the all committee meetings on Tuesday, February 14th. Do any members of the public in the room have comments on these consent agenda items? If you'd like to make a comment, please approach the podium. I do not see any comments in the room. Do any members of the public on WebEx have a comment? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use your hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand. Do we have any public comments about the consent agenda? Looks like we do not. Great. Ms. Lane, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda items? Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Core,
Yes.
Director Howard,
Yes.
Director Mulhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon.
Yes.
The board discussion action item is as follows. VP Sustainability and Environmental Affairs Appointment Resolution 6558. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the appointment of Cliff Fleener as Vice President, Sustainability and Environmental Affairs, and the compensation as set forth on the attached exhibit be and hereby are approved effective April 17, 2023.
I make a motion to confirm the appointment of Cliff Diener as Vice President and approve his compensation.
Second.
Great. And Director Mulhoff, do you have any additional comments for board discussion or clarification?
No, I think we discussed this on Tuesday, but Javier, I think, has some comments.
Yes, I would like to take an opportunity to once again discuss a little bit of the rationale behind this position and something that I shared on Tuesday. And at the risk of being repetitive here, I think it's important for the public to understand how important sustainability and environmental affairs are to our operations. We have one strategic directive that specifically addresses this topic. And we have a lot of regulations, federal, state, local regulations that continue to give us guidance on how to conduct our business and our operations in a way that in an environmentally sustainable manner. Those regulations are not going to get any easier or simpler as time goes by. And it is super important for me to have that voice representing the sustainability and environmental affairs function of the organization at the executive table. Our mission is to provide affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive energy service to our customer owners. And that environmentally sensitive piece is, again, just bubbles up all the way to the top in our mission, and having these function at the table is really, really important. I want to take an opportunity to thank every member of our environmental affairs team at OPPD. We've had for years many women and men who dedicate their lives, their day in and day out work at OPPD to make sure that we're in compliance with environmental regulations, that we are being good advocates for sustainability and environmental affairs. So those functions don't change. They will now have a unique voice sitting at the executive table. And I expect Mr. Fleener to be that voice and to help us expand and grow this function that is so important to balance against reliability and affordability that are very important parts of our mission. Mr. Fleener, as I mentioned earlier, on Tuesday, he comes to us from Valmont Industries, where he's been working there for about 15 years. He's been doing this type of work for over 20. He's a member of our former member of our armed services. So thank you for your service, Cliff. The work that he has done at Valmont has been fantastic, very impressive, not only here in Omaha and the region, but internationally, helping Valmont advance a lot of their sustainability programs. I am very, very excited about that. And one thing that I didn't get a chance to discuss with the board on Tuesday is the salary. The proposed salary is $325,000, which is at 91% of the midpoint. As a reminder to the public and to the board, we benchmark all of our executive positions with other similar positions in the industry, in the region, and we determine our human capital function determines a midpoint, a minimum, and a maximum. The minimum is 20% below, maximum is 20% higher than the midpoint. This proposed salary it's 91% of the midpoint. So it's below the midpoint, and it allows Mr. Fleener to grow in compensation as he continues to deliver results for the district. This range is not unusual. There are 5 other positions in the executive leadership team that have exactly the same range. And so I feel comfortable with the recommendation from Human Capital on the proposed salary. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Looks like we don't have any more clarification questions on this item. Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on this action item? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium. I do not see any. Do any members of the public on WebEx have a comment? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand. Do we have any comments or questions from the public? No chat. Great, thanks very much. Do any of the members of the Board of Directors have any additional thoughts or comments about this item, other than clarification questions that we already covered? Great. We all had a chance to meet Mr. Fleener earlier in the process, and so I'm glad to have this recommendation today. I appreciate you doing the work to find someone to lead this new executive level action within our organization. I appreciate him joining us tonight, and I'm looking forward to him being a part of the team. So with that, can we have a roll call on the action item?
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Core,
Yes.
Director Howard,
Yes.
Director Mulhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon.
Yes.
Thanks very much. At this time, Javier, do you have any additional thoughts to share? Or
Yes, I think it's a tradition. I think every time we have a new vice president appointment, it's a tradition for us to hear a few words from the appointee. So, Cliff, if you would like to come to the podium and address the board and give us your reflections and maybe your first time addressing the board. Your start date will be April 17th, so officially will be official on the 17th. But anything you want to share?
Thank you, Javier, very much. Well, I'll just start with the whole theme of this very short discussion is gratitude. And I'd like to start by just thanking Javier for his gracious and warm comments. I'd also like to thank the executive leadership team, who I've had a chance to meet, and the whole HR staff at OPPD for really making me feel at home and welcoming me into the organization, and thank the board both for supporting the creation of this position and for considering my candidacy. I greatly appreciate it. I also like to thank the I'd like to build on the foundation that's been set up by the environmental function under Lisa Olson and her team. I look forward with working them collaboratively in the future and learning from them, as well as we begin to hone our program and drive change at the Power District. In taking this position, I told Javier I'd like to be part of the future, and that future I think will be more sustainable, work within the context of both affordability and resilience. It may seem like a long journey, but I think it's a journey worth taking, and I look forward to pursuing that in Oppd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cliff.
Great. Thanks very much, Mr. Fleener, and welcome aboard. You'll be joining just in time for all the Earth Day Omaha activities the week that you join the organization. So it'll be busy your first week, I'm sure. With that, the next item on the agenda is the President's report from CEO Javier Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair Williams. I'll try to be brief, but there's a lot of information here to share. I'm going to go to the first slide, and as it's tradition, I report on the baseload generation. These are coal-fired power plants, the 4 units that we have at Oppd. For the month of February, their performance is, as you see on the screen, about 50% for both Nebraska City units 1 and 2, and 39 and 36% for North Omaha units 4 and 5. Nebraska City 1 was online and available for the entire month of February, and same with Nebraska City 2. This is not unusual for this time of the year when we are integrating intermittent renewable resources like wind. We cycle those units, we lower their production to make sure that we have an optimized portfolio, and so that's really reflected on those numbers. North Omaha 4 had several derates in the month of February, and it was a tube leak from February 8th to the 10th, so that contributed to an even lower capacity factor of North Omaha 4. And North Omaha 5 had a short outage from the 20th to the 22nd, which again, it helps explain the lower baseload generation. A few of these units are getting ready for our seasonal planned outage. This is every year. We, depending on the unit, we take them offline for an extended amount of time to do maintenance and to make sure that these units are ready for prime time, which usually comes in the warmer months of the summer. Next slide, please. Our balancing generation, as you can see, Cass County, Jones Street, 1.4, 1.3% of capacity factor. We ran those units. Those units were available and had successful starts. They are called upon from the market to help balance the reliability of the region. Sarpy County had a capacity factor of 2.8%. Again, as expected, very low capacity factor, and as I've always mentioned, it's the 2.8% of the time that is the most important. May sound like they don't operate too much, but they operate when it is the most important time for our system. Next slide, please. February renewables contributed 39.3% of Oppd's retail energy sales. As a reminder, most of this is wind. There's a small portion of a community solar, but most of this is wind, which is why I report the wind capacity factor in February was 52.4%. Wind blows hard here in Nebraska, as evidenced today, and that contributed to that high wind capacity factor. Conversely, the capacity factor for community solar was lower at 19.3%, as we had shorter daylight hours during the month of February. We expect these to increase later on in the summer. Next slide, please. This is a fantastic story. I want to take a little bit of time on this one. It's 4 years in the making, and I want to celebrate that it's not 5. Originally, we had planned for 5 years, and I am reporting back to the board 4 years after we began this journey. We converted 90,500 out of a total of 100,000 streetlights with energy-efficient LED fixtures. Again, in 4 years instead of the original 5 that we expected. There are a lot of efficiencies gained with a contractor-led work, getting a lot of work done ahead of time, of course, securing a lot of these materials ahead of the inflation that we're experiencing currently. That was helpful. It helps us achieve 90% of the goal 1 year early. The spend for the first 4 years is about 41% below our original estimates. This is a project that came to us, Director Mulhoff is no longer here, but she was one of the proponents for that when she was in the Ashland City Council. And we had conversations with different cities, including the city of Omaha, looking for partnerships where we could do work that would help the cities we serve lower their costs. Ultimately, their taxpayers are our ratepayers. And this has resulted in a fantastic partnership, saving money. These LED fixtures last longer. And I think you can move to the next slide. These LEDs last 20 years as opposed to the original 5-year life cycle. We're already experiencing some of those savings because the call outs to replace fixtures have extended in length. We don't replace as many. Great work from the team. Again, we've already experienced 70% decrease in first response of outage calls. And all of these savings also turn into not only savings of dollars, but savings of carbon emissions. We believe that all of these program has already resulted in about 17,000 tons of carbon emissions savings. Again, all because we took advantage of new technology and switched to LED fixtures 4 years ago. As a reminder to the board and to the members of the public, we own streetlights. The majority of the streetlights in our service territory are owned and operated by us, and we contract with each jurisdiction, and they pay for us. They pay us for streetlight services. So that's why it's important for us to partner with those municipalities that we serve. Next slide, please. Honoring our community, connecting the dots. I mentioned these a couple of months ago. OPPD partners with Nebraska 4-H and the University of Nebraska Extension Office. We held 2 events. The first one was on February 14th in Falls City, and the second one was in March 8th in Syracuse, Nebraska. Interactive career exploration for 9th and 10th graders, where they explore how to connect the dots from early high school through post-secondary into the workplace. This is how we're reaching out not only to college students, to community college students, but all the way down to middle school, high school, and in some instances, elementary school. The photo from in the middle is our Hit the Streets event. We held this event on March 4th. It was a much better weather than we had last year. Still a little chilly, but not as chilly as it was last year. We had 911 registrants, which is an event record. Over $138,000 raised. That will go, 65,000 of that will go to OPPD's Energy Assistance Program. Some of that money also goes to MUD's assistance program. We collaborate with MUD and OPPD, and all of it is to help those customer owners who have trouble paying their utility bills. And the one on the right is a Marshmallow Challenge. If you've never done it, I highly encourage you to do it. It's hard. It's really hard, and a lot of these elementary school students are much better than us adults at solving these creative problems. It was held in conjunction with Engineering Week on February 19th to the 25th. Our OPB Society of Engineers asked 5th grade classrooms in our service territory to build a tower out of marshmallows and spaghetti for the chance to win prizes. The top 3 schools and the most creative schools received goodie bags for the classroom. And also we had OPPD employees visiting their school. The first place winner this year was St. Margaret Mary Elementary School with a 40-inch tower. And if you want to see the complete list of winners, you can visit OPPD's Facebook page. It was a really fun event. And again, if you've never done it, I challenge you to do it. And one day we may have a board interactive session with that. Next slide, please. Last month, I talked a little bit at length about the transmission reliability project that we're doing on 108th and Blondo to 123rd and Pacific. I consider it important for me to report back to the board the progress that we're making on that. Just a reminder, we're rebuilding a double circuit 161 kilovolt line, which is about 3 miles in length, reestablishing an easement corridor that we established in 1950s. On the tree clearing status, we have 131 properties affected. 6 properties, I think it's more than that. It's about 9 properties that were declared that no tree clearing was needed. 9. Okay, so there's a correction there. We have completed work on 86 of those properties. We continue to work on schedule and work and meet with customer owners who are affected and have concerns. And once again, the team has done a beautiful job showing compassion and working one-on-one with customer owners, and at the same time, not letting lose of, not letting the focus away from the safety of our employees. So thank you for all the work you're doing. The line construction will begin this fall with completion approximately March of 2024. And so the proper restoration from that construction should be completed all the way into the spring of 2024. There's going to be quite a bit of work when we bring in all the machinery and erect structures. Next slide, please. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to call Aaron Smith to come to the podium. Aaron, you're going to have to remind me of your title because it's changed recently. But what I would like to do on these, if you remember, we have 5 strategic initiatives, and we used to report a lengthy report to the board at board meetings. As we've closed out those strategic initiatives and we turn those from strategic initiatives to actual operations and projects that are already working, my instructions to the team have been, let's report back to the board on how we're closing down these strategic initiatives. This is the 4th strategic initiative we're closing. We closed this out last month, and Aaron is going to talk about these strategic initiative. I want to report out that we also closed out last week our last strategic initiative, our customer engagement for the future. We will have another presentation next month talking about that. So Aaron, why don't you let us know what was the original objective, what you discovered, and the work that resulted out of these initiatives?
All right, thank you, Javier. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Aaron Smith, and I'm the Director of Distributed Device Strategy, and I've had the pleasure of leading our grid modernization strategic initiative over the past couple of years. We've involved over 100 OPPD employees at various points in our journey and held several hundred workshops along the way. And I'm excited to be able to share with you that we have wrapped up our strategy work, have closed out the strategic initiative, and are now in the early stages of execution. As a refresher, our mission was to develop an integrated vision and roadmap for the modern grid at OPPD. In order to achieve our vision of a resilient digital grid and integrated service platform, we've built a multi-year roadmap in conjunction with the Technology Platform Strategic Initiative. The first phase will take place over the next few years is to invest in our technology systems, specifically those systems that help us build, monitor, operate, analyze, and maintain our electric system on behalf of our customer owners. And this will put us in a position to be ready for AMI technology. Our current drive-by AMR system is nearing the end of its 20-year projected useful life. So by investing in AMI, we not only mitigate a potential asset wall, but we'll also be able to enhance our customer experience and optimize our operations through new functionality. We're in the middle of an RFP process to select our vendor or vendors for AMI meters, the field communication system, and a meter data management system. We're getting close to selecting a vendor, and we'll begin negotiations with, and we will be providing future updates to the board on this. Starting a few years from now, we'll begin an AMI soft launch of about 10,000 meters that will allow us to test and optimize some of the new functionality provided. After a period of a successful runtime with the soft launch, we'll move into a full deployment for the rest of our nearly 400,000 meters. In the last half of the decade, we'll also ramp up our distribution automation and grid monitoring capabilities. And what that really means is we'll be able to more quickly locate and address system issues and outages and automatically take action to minimize the number of customers impacted. And on our way, we'll continue to layer on advanced functionality through the AMI 2.0 technology. Slide, please.
Can I ask you real quick for people who might be listening, you've used 2 acronyms. Can you clarify AMR and AMI for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. AMR is automated meter reading, and AMI is advanced metering infrastructure. All right, we'll now take a quick look back at our journey that we've been on over the past couple of years. We started our journey by looking at both internal and external factors that are driving our need to transform, such as increased customer expectations and the acceleration of electrification and electric vehicles. From there, we looked at hundreds of use cases and began developing requirements for the technology needed to meet our modern grid vision, which includes AMI. We did a deep dive assessment on our current technology against those requirements and determined our gaps in AMI readiness. We then developed our multi-year roadmap to become AMI ready, to proceed with the soft launch, and then to move into full deployment of AMI across our service territory and continue to enable advanced functionality along the way the rest of the decade. Next slide, please. And finally, here's a look at some of the features and benefits of deploying AMI and the supporting ecosystem of technologies. For the soft launch and the early stages of full deployment, we're focused on the customer outage journey. And I know at a few board meetings ago, you saw a video, the grandma video with the outage journey. That's exactly what we're setting up with this technology, that functionality. In addition to that, we're focused on being able to provide enhanced customer information on usage to our customers and an optimized customer experience. Then as we progress through full deployment, we'll be able to layer on advanced functionality and new offerings. This is going to be a very large effort, but I'm thrilled that we're going to embark on this exciting journey over the next few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. And I'm equally excited. I think this is incredibly important for us, and it comes at a really good time. We are, as Aaron mentioned, our current metering technology is coming to the end of its useful life, so it's important for us to think about how do we replace that technology, with what technology we replace it, and even more important is make sure that we have the right ecosystem, technologically speaking, so that we can start accepting all of these significantly higher volumes of data. Our current AMR system, we read it once a month. Right? We drive around our service territory and we collect meter readings from each meter, and that gives us the monthly usage for each customer, and that's what we use for billing. Well, now that is going to be multiplied significantly because we will have readings more frequently than once a month, and we will be able to also talk back to the meter. So getting all the technology infrastructure behind it, all the data governance in place is super important. And that's why it's taking us a little longer than what people may expect. Hey, you're just switching meters. Why do you have to wait? Well, it's not as easy as switching meters. We want to make sure that we have a successful deployment of this technology that will enable many, many, many benefits for our customers. One of them, probably the most visible to me, is going to be when we have outages, we won't need a customer to call in and let us know that their power is out. That's the way we operate today. This type of metering technology will let our operators know instantaneously when a meter lost power. So very excited for that, and thank you, Aaron, and the team for your work on the strategic initiative. And I'm going to thank you in advance for all the work that comes ahead that is a result of the strategic initiative. Our last slide, as always, we talk about the men and women, in this case, men that we've lost in the line of duty. Just short 5 years after OPPD began operations as the Omaha Public Power District, we were celebrating 5 years as an organization. Mr. Larry McGrew lost his life. He died on May 16 of 1951 from injuries sustained from a fall while working on a pole near 59th and Military Avenue in Omaha. He was 35 years old at the time of his death. And let this be a reminder of how important it is that we all stay safe, and that the work that we perform, the 1,900 women and men at OPPD perform day in and day out is important, provides a service to our customer owners, and in some cases it's dangerous enough for some to lose their life. So to Mr. McGrew's family, we do not forget, and you're well remembered. And that concludes my President's report.
Great, thanks very much. At this time, we have an opportunity for comment on other items of district business. Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on any other items of district business? If you would like to make a comment, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and any organization you represent.
David Begley, customer owner, 4611 South 96th Street, Omaha. I wanted to start out this evening by noting that I appreciate my 3 minutes of free speech. Gratitude is something I learned from the Society of Jesus, and I've always kept that in mind. I've never been shouted down or heckled here at the podium, unlike a conservative federal judge was at the Stanford Law School. The point of my 3 minutes is to inform the board that there is another side to this net zero story. I dissent from OPPD's net zero policy, and I've given you facts, science, and data to support my opinion. I can assure you that if voters knew that OPPD was planning on spending $29 billion, which will triple rates and result possibly in January blackouts, you'd all be voted out of office. The chairwoman of the Sumner County Board, Doris Karloff, she was recalled from office after your plant was approved out in UTAN. Net zero carbon, in my opinion, is the biggest public policy mistake in Nebraska by a large margin. I will not be silent. Next topic. I told you last meeting that China is building 2 new coal power plants per month. It's bigger than that. It's 2 per week. 106 gigawatts of new coal powered plants were permitted in 2022. OPPD, I will remind you, only has 2 gigawatts of total power production. So China is where the alleged problem is. So I also told you previously that temperatures have been flat and carbon dioxide is going up. Here's the graph that proves up on that. I don't make any of this stuff up. Another graph, I've told you repeatedly that power prices in Germany are triple. Here's a nice little graph, shows United States, its percentage of renewables. As renewables go up, power prices go up. So you got Germany up there and Denmark, very expensive power. Us, currently, quite low.
30 seconds.
The French, they've got all that nuclear power, they're still pretty cheap. So with that, I conclude my remarks, and I thank you.
Any other members of the public have comments they would wish to share?
Good evening. I'm Bill McKay. I live at 3220 Crystal Drive in Bellevue. I'm here with my wife. I sent a letter kind of explaining why I'm here. Sounds like I'm at the right meeting. With an AMI proposal on the screen, I'm pretty excited. One of the reasons I'm excited is because I had no idea until we became solar producers that we would get a bill with no meter readings on it. And I explained that in my letter a little bit. I've been working with your customer service people, and awesome. Sam Hughes and Samantha Christensen have been awesome. Make sure you pass that along. One of the things that my wife and I did was we decided that solar could be right for us because of our situation. We have an outbuilding that's facing the right direction. We have a meter on the outbuilding. There's a circuit that powers the house. Infrastructure cost would be low to install the solar system, so it all kind of worked. The plan was to primarily build a system that will help fix our cost of utilities as we retire. When we got our first bill, it was kind of messed up. The customer service people said, yeah, it's kind of messed up, but next month it'll be better. We are still questioning why a meter reading, a bill can't have meter readings on it. And it looks like, obviously, this AMR system is probably the ticket. I sent some examples of Duke Energy's billing, and this is what I would like. I would like a bill that shows what I use, what I produce, and what I purchased. And if that's possible with AMI, I think you're on the right track. I also would invite any of you to come out and see my system, log into the production, see what's happening. We built the system to really replace all of our utility costs. All the energy that we would purchase in a normal year, that's how big the system is. We did make a mistake. I made a mistake in the way that's calculated and the way net metering is calculated.
30 seconds.
The way it looked to me is the net metering would be transferred in kilowatt hours to the next month. At the end of the year, I could be paid for whatever excess I have, and we designed it to have very little excess. The problem is it's calculated on a dollar amount every month, and that changes the structure of the payback for the system. I would recommend that when you look at the solar information online, it refers to
And that's time.
it refers to the rate meter or rate scale, the 483 rate scale. Put the rate in there. Put an explanation of how it works. Add more information. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And your comments were shared with other members of the board. I've spoke with Director Core about this, and there are members of the executive team who would be able to answer any additional questions you might have. I'm sure that Aaron could talk about AMI, and Tim might be able to talk about some of our other products and services that we anticipate being available with AMI in the future. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your input. Do other members of the public have comments in the room? Okay, if not, do we have any comments online?
David Corbin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciated David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street, representing the Nebraska Sierra Club. I appreciated the committee meeting presentations on load growth, and there was a considerable amount of discussion about meeting the demand for new generation. There was less discussion about demand side management and energy efficiency as mentioned in OPPD's IRP. New and remodeled buildings should meet strict energy efficiency standards. This can be in concert with the Inflation Reduction Act. Your support of you supported LB 237 on weatherization funding, which would fit in with the IRA funding and tax rebates for energy efficiency and solar energy. And your recent online poll about on-bill financing that just came out this week. It would have been helpful to have OPPD testify on LB 560 since some senators were stating things like OPPD only gets 10% of its energy from renewables. NDEE has accepted Nebraska's EPA $3 million climate pollution reduction grant. And now it's important that Metro Omaha accepts their $1 million climate pollution reduction plan. So I hope that OPPD is working with people. If this is not just for the city of Omaha, it's for Metro Omaha, which you cover for electricity. This should work well with the city climate action plan that's coming forward. OPPD's new Vice President for Sustainability and Environmental Affairs, congratulations on that, as well as the IRA and the IIJA and other EPA grants. I want to thank you for the summary follow-up about the North Omaha communications. I appreciated your comments about coordinating with schools for STEM programs and citizen scientists. The ad hoc group is looking right now into writing EPA environmental justice grants. And finally, I'll just end. I see that Tim Burke is CEO again, but this time interim CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber. So with all of these working together, I think we have a good future for you meeting your goals. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have other online comments?
John Pollock.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can, John. Please go ahead.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. First thing I'd like to say, with Earth Day coming up, tree planting is a very popular activity, and OPPD sometimes gets involved with that too. I think you could be taking a more proactive role in informing some of the efforts, because the trees are going to be around for a long time, and you're in a unique position to say which trees are holding up well and which ones aren't after the windstorms that we get in the area. And I think that would be very valuable. Getting on to the weather, one of the things that we have going on, of course, right now is the transition from winter to spring. We're still in our winter mode until about the equinox. We're going to have a few more days of cold weather. Then we will switch over to a more spring-like pattern, less cold air coming out of Canada. However, the storm track isn't changing very much. So we have a storm track that's going from the Pacific to California and up toward the Great Lakes. And that puts us mostly on the south side of the storm track. We get some warm air ahead. We get cold air behind. As we get into the spring months, we have an increasing vulnerability to severe weather outbreaks. That's just a normal part of spring around here, of course. I'm not looking at anything particular right now in terms of an outbreak, but we can just never tell. We've had serious tornadoes in the area as early as late March in the past. One other thing that is a little bit unusual, we still have an area of severe to extreme drought that runs from southwest Nebraska approximately across the southwest half of Kansas. And that is also our source region for dust storms. So this spring,
30
we will
seconds.
have yes, thank you, an unusual vulnerability whenever there's one of these storms coming out of the southwest to getting into a dust storm area. We had a little bit of that last fall. We can do it again in the spring. It creates driving hazards as well as various environmental dust hazards. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional comments online? Great. With that, we'll do a final call for any comments in the room and anyone online. Hearing none, that concludes our agenda. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.